Hey everyone, Sumo Spiffy here. Welcome to our first crack at coverage during the basho, where we'll look at what's been interesting over the first 5 days of Aki 2023. And call me biased, but I think Hoshoryu has been very interesting. How is this guy 2-3? I picked him to win all 5 of his fights so far for a good reason. He should have won all 5 fights. Now, sumo being sumo, that's never a guarantee, but 3 losses in the first 4 days? Let's take a peek at what's going on. Previous experience has shown we can't use even small clips of the ongoing basho without catching copyright strikes, so we're going to use stills instead. The Abi fight went pretty much according to plan, so we'll start with this match against Hokuto Fuji. Right off the bat, Hoshoryu gets his arms inside, going for the belt. Hokuto Fuji pinches, defending against the grab, which worked well for him in July. He keeps going for that left-hand grip, which Hokuto Fuji continues defending. But this gives Hoshoryu a chance to drive Hokuto Fuji to the rope. Hokuto Fuji uses the rope to push off, but as soon as he applies pressure, Hoshoryu jumps out of the way and gets a good side position. He should get the belt here, but he misses, and Hokuto Fuji swivels to get his hips back and out of danger again. The instant Hoshoryu dives his right hand inside to go for the belt, Hokuto Fuji also pulls down on his left arm, sending him wildly off balance. After that, Hokuto Fuji just needs to not miss an entire human with his slapdown, and he wins the fight. This is the least disappointing of the 3 losses. Hoshoryu could have been more patient with his approach, but Hokuto Fuji did a good job defending at the start, and it mostly came down to the missed belt grab. If Hoshoryu landed in that side position, this is a whole different fight. The Tobizaru match is a different matter. This one... Tobizaru charges in and immediately keeps his arms positioned low to defend his belt. Tobi steps back, hooks his forearms on Hoshoryu's forearms, and it's like, no, Hoshoryu, don't fall for it 2 bashos in a row. Hoshoryu does, in fact, fall for it 2 bashos in a row, and while at least he keeps his fingers from grazing the sand this time, he has to frog hop way forward to keep from hitting the deck, which gives the monkey a nice easy butt push win. Sumo is a sport where the right level of aggression can be difficult to find, and sometimes you run into an opponent who's good at baiting you into leaning too far forward. But at this level, you can't fall for something like this twice in a row. You gotta make the other guy find a different trick next time. Where the Tobizaru match was frustrating, the Shodai one was astonishing. Image quality's not quite as good here, sorry. Hoshoryu immediately gets a good push on the Tachiai. Moments in, and it looks like Hoshoryu's gonna blast Shodai into next week. He gets almost too good of a push, which creates separation. Still, even though Shodai has more room to maneuver, if you had to be one of these guys, it'd be the one running in. Shodai barely defends himself from the next push, semi-parrying Hoshoryu's arms to reduce the contact. In this still frame, it looks like there's still good contact. As we can see from where they end up though, it clearly wasn't enough contact. The parry wasn't great, but Hoshoryu committed hard enough to the push that even partially missing has left him in an awful position. And yet, he's able to recover into what looks like another favorable position. Shodai's back is to the rope, he's got one foot up, and Hoshoryu is looking to push again. They get to here, where Hoshoryu is driving with all he has, and Shodai's not even braced on the rope. But when he steps in, Shodai hits him with the basic leg clip, sending his right foot up, and even though it only gets them to here, Hoshoryu's feet slip when he tries to nudge Shodai out, and down he goes. Hoshoryu had an advantageous position multiple times, but he kept fighting like he had to win right now, and when it didn't work, he put himself in an unnecessarily vulnerable position. It's like sparring a less experienced teammate, where you leave openings to see if they're able to take advantage. Just, this isn't practice, this is the biggest stage in sumo. Awesome. The Tamawashi fight ended up being as unlosable as it looked, thank God, but our newest Ozeki certainly tried to make a meal of it. Hoshoryu starts off well again, getting a push and a solid stance as Tamawashi tries a mini sidestep. Tamawashi slowly circles and retreats, defending as Hoshoryu presses. This isn't generally his preferred game plan, so here it looks like Hoshoryu will work him back and out of the ring. After another parry, Tamawashi pushes off the instant his foot hits the rope, leaving Hoshoryu badly off balance. Hoshoryu whiffs a reflexive slapdown on Tamawashi's arms, leaving himself in worse shape, and as he recovers, Tamawashi shoves him back to the rope. Controlling Hoshoryu by the head isn't going to get it done though, and when it's his turn to push off the edge, Tamawashi's in full retreat. Even so, on the final push, Tamawashi leans left to let Hoshoryu's left arm fall past him, getting Hoshoryu super low and almost pulling off the miracle win. Fortunately for Hoshoryu, his left foot hits the rope, giving him enough of a brace to finish off the harder than it should have been victory. This is exactly what I was talking about in the Hoshoryu breakdown with regards to him winning through physical superiority. He overcommitted himself into unnecessarily bad positions the same way he did against Shodai, but where Shodai had just enough ability to take advantage, Tamawashi just doesn't have that kind of juice anymore. And yet, for his day 6 fight with Asanoyama, I'm picking Hoshoryu to win. A lot of people may see this after the fight is done, and thus I might look like a moron, but there's 2 reasons. 1, Asanoyama isn't looking much better than Hoshoryu relative to what we should expect from him. 2, and more importantly, Hoshoryu needs a good controlled belt fight, and Asanoyama's likely to give it to him. If I thought Asanoyama was likely to put baiting Hoshoryu in and hitting a slapdown into his playbook, I'd probably pick him. So if he takes that approach, I think he's got a great chance at winning. But if he insists on going for the belt like he usually does, Hoshoryu should be able to get the better of him. To swing this towards the guys doing well, there are certainly a lot of them. When nobody's undefeated after 5 days, that means there will be a lot of 4-1s, and we've got 8 of them right now. Takakeisho's looked pretty good after a day 1 loss to Hokuto Fuji, but his wins have appeared to show weakness in his opposition more than a real pop-off level from him. Nishikigi, as well as he's done the last couple of tournaments, isn't normally on his level, and neither is Meisei. Asanoyama's injuries might be affecting him, but he's also continued to look sloppier than a would-be Ozeki should. And Abi could have won if he'd taken 1 step to the side. The Battle Hamster should sail to a winning record with this start, and 10 wins is highly plausible, but the back half of the Basho is when we'll get a better idea where he's actually at. I had a few questions about Ganayama's physical abilities at this level, but I wondered how he would do against people more accustomed to his type of bulldozer ability. So far, so good. He's on a high-speed path to a bunch of Sanyaku opponents, which might slow his roll, but he followed an outstanding show of balance and control against Ryuden with a boomer of a win over Onisho. That's a good sign going forward. This Onisho is Good Day Onisho, the guy you know can crush, but you don't know before the tournament if he's gonna show up. Getting blasted by Ganayama is unfortunate, but not many guys have that ability, so barring an injury recurrence, he's looking at a similar path to Ganayama's, sailing along until the Sanyaku show up, and then maybe continuing to sail. Papa Bear's healthy for the time being, making me happy I picked him in at least some fantasy games. Onisho's always been a tough matchup, and squeaking out a win against Shonen no Umi is not a bad sign. He should have a good number of winnable fights left, so hopefully his leg hangs together. Kinbozan's been extremely impressive. He doesn't look anything like the guy with the bad neck who hadn't been training. He's absolutely blasting people like he's got something to prove, because he sorta does. I picked Endo in a lot of games, so I was personally perfectly happy to see Kinbo Slice go down in that fight, but it was still quite a surprise. Still, that seems more like a positive for Endo than a negative for Kinbozan, and he should be able to power his way to several more wins before things get too tough. Or, if he slips a little, he might avoid significantly more difficult matchups and still pick up a relatively straightforward 9 or 10 wins. Mitakeumi has this ticking time bomb quality about him. I almost picked him in several games because he can dominate this level if he's healthy enough, but there's a dual question about his health at the start and whether it can maintain for the full 2 weeks. His first 3 days looked outstanding. Then he got blasted by Kinbozan so fast it was hard to tell whether he was okay or not. He looked fine against Midori Fuji, but that's a matchup which is less likely to test his physical limits. Atami Fuji's much happier on the belt, so day 6 might also be favorable for Mitakeumi's health, but if he gets through that matchup unscathed, we'll get a better sense of where he's at by how he handles guys like Sadanoumi, or maybe even Takayasu at this rate. I kinda want to see him against Hiradoumi, but their records are already so divergent that that's less likely to happen now. I've said Atami Fuji is not the same guy that took his first whack at Makauchi several months ago, and that's playing out now. He's been like a belt-happy poor man's Ganayama, fighting his fight and hanging tough when opponents get him in trouble. His day 6 might tell us more about Mitakeumi, since I don't think Mitakeumi at anywhere near full health will lose this fight, but we will get to see how the kid handles a higher level of skill. And finally, the only guy to beat Atami is looking genuinely good right now. He's getting to belts, and from that point on, dominating fights. I confess I haven't paid a ton of attention to Tsurugisho's style, so I don't know if he's been surprisingly effective on the belt or surprisingly effective in getting belts in the first place, but at the moment guys need to find ways to keep their sashes safe. If his next several opponents have trouble doing that, we might see a repeat of May, where he ran it up to 9-3 before numbers and fate dictated it was time for him to get clowned by a couple Sekiwake and an Exozeki. The first third of the basho is over, and so is this commentary. As long as there aren't any copyright complaints about using stills, I'll try to find time for at least one more of these before the end of the basho. So, have a great day, and I'll see you soon.